Welcome to Mathematics for Principles of Economics. The topic of this video is how do we compute average total cost?
And the math behind the economics is finding averages.
Recall that a firm's total cost, fixed and variable cost, tells us the cost of producing different quantities of goods and services. But what if we're interested in knowing the average cost of producing these different quantities? In the table here, we have a column for quantity produced and a quantity for total cost. So how would we find the averages?
So let's talk about what we mean when we say average. The average of a collection of values is one way of measuring a typical or central value. It tells you in general what you might expect from the values in that set. Sometimes you'll hear the average called the arithmetic mean. There are other ways of thinking about a typical or central value, such as median and mode, but we will not be discussing those in this video. So in order to find the average, what do we need? Well, we'll be given a collection of data, some set of values. The first step we would do is we would add up all the values in our set. The second step is to take that sum of values and divide by the number of values that were in the original set, and then we write our answer as a complete sentence. So let's do an example where we calculate the average distance students must travel to get to their math class. Very important. So here's our data. We have 5 students who travel 10 miles, 5 students who travel 20 miles, 10 students who travel 8 miles, and 3 students who travel 1 mile. And I want to think of this set of data as one value for each student. So my n in this case would be the number of students, which is 13. So let's do this calculation now. I want to add up all the values in my set, and I don't want to write 1 plus 1 plus 1 and so on because I'm too lazy. So step 1 would be to take the sum of these. I have 3 1s, so that's 3. I have 10 8s, so that's 80. I have 5 10s, so that's 50. And I have 5 20s, which is 100. And I'm going to take that sum, and I end up with 233. So that's step 1. Step 2 is I take that value, step 2, I take the value 233 and I divide by the number of values in my set. Now, the number of values in my set is 23. It's possible I said 13 before. This is wrong. This should be a 23. 5 students plus 5 students plus 10 students plus 3 students is 23. So I'm going to divide my 233 by 23 and I end up with 10.13. So step 3 is to write it as a complete sentence. I'm not going to do so, but you can do it for yourself. And again, the average value for all those data, those students would be 10.13 miles to get to their math class.
Okay, now let's answer the question about average total cost posed earlier. And note that all we really have to do here is to take the total cost of producing different quantities and divide by the quantities produced. So these have already been computed for us. For the first case, 100 divided by 0 is undefined, so we'll just put some little dashes there. On the second case, if we have 150 total cost divided by quantity of 1, the answer is 150. Filling in the rest of the table, we have 180 divided by 2, and so on. In each case, taking the total cost, dividing by the quantity produced. Notice that our average cost first decreases and then increases, although total cost is increasing over the whole set. If we look at the graphs of these functions, again, we see total cost increasing, whereas average cost decreases and then increases as the quantity becomes larger. Other times we find averages in economics. We look at ideas such as average revenue, average product, average wages, average growth rates, and average propensities to consume and save.
So we've seen how to use the math behind the economics in order to compute average total cost. Thank you for listening.